I can just see you in the thing. I mean, building in your chair. Their mortgage. Heartbreaking if you can. Oh, we had something.
Yeah, they were all.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Monday, March 31st edition of Rotary. Here to do our prayer pledge and four-way test. Ms. Conti.
Okay. Let us remember that we are in the holy presence of God, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, and Spirit. This is a prayer that Saint Teresa of Avila created. And I think it's appropriate for us is what we do here for Rotary. Christ has no body but yours, no hands, no feet on earth but yours. Yours are the eyes with which he looks compassion on this world. Yours are the feet with which he walks to do good. Yours are the hands with which he blesses all the world. Amen.
Amen.
Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Four-way test. Number one.
Is it
true?
Number two.
Is it fair?
All concerned.
Number three.
Well, there will be well better friendships.
And number four.
Well, it will be beneficial to all concerned.
Thank you.
All right, team three. Any updates?
So we are team three, which is Rotary Awareness. We're still looking for 2 people to help out on the team. Is anybody active on LinkedIn? Oh, come on. Somebody's gonna be active on LinkedIn. Ish.
It used to be until I was hacked.
Oh, it's not good. So anyways, we need somebody to help with the LinkedIn presence, and it's just setting up the event and sharing posts. It's not that difficult. Also, we use a tool called Buffer, which posts to all 3 of our presences at one time, which are on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Super easy to do. You don't need to be on any of those presences because you can just use our club's login and schedule the posts. And it's just helpful. It does create awareness. I know when I'm traveling, I go and look at other clubs' social media presences to see, if they're having a meeting and what their topics are and things and where they're located. So it just helps create the exposure for our club vibrancy. So if anybody can help with those, it'd be greatly appreciated.
Excellent. Thank you, Julie. All right, so yep, just
That's
what
that.
Julie said, yep, urgent need for help on that. John.
Yes, sir. Hey, welcome back, everybody. I missed you. Great to be here. We've got the Cats ended, but you know what? We're glad Mark Pope is our coach.
Yeah.
Great year. Just good human beings on that team, even in a loss. So that was encouraging and looking forward to the coming year on the rest of that. So that was good. Our red light started off a little slow. We were ahead, then we were behind, and then we ended up behind in 2 hours. They still count there. I got a news report. My nephew and his wife are having a baby. So I was invited to a diaper party this weekend in Nashville. My first diaper party, so I got a really nice packet of pens to go with me. But it wasn't that kind of diaper party. You're supposed to buy diapers for the baby that's coming. So I just wanted to know that I'll keep my Depends and maybe someday from now I'll need those. That's all I have.
Thanks, John.
All right.
All right, we got our district conference, multi-district conference coming up, which is going to be in Chattanooga, Tennessee, May 2nd and 3rd, I guess, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Did you want to speak to that at all?
I hope you guys can give it a minute of thought to come and join us in Chattanooga. There's gonna be 3 districts represented. We're expecting about 500 Rotarians. But for that to happen, we gotta have a pretty good show from our district, 6740. We're the smallest. We're a little bit farther away, but we're gonna do everything we can to make it worth your time and effort to come join us. Friday night, we're gonna have a block party out in front of the Westin Hotel. And there's gonna be a live band. We're gonna have bourbon tasting. Boone County Distilling has been kind enough to load me up with a couple bottles of their bourbon to take. And it'll be a lot of fun. There's not really a whole lot of work as district conference. Saturday morning, there'll be a few minutes as our district gets together and you approve my budget for next year. We talk about what we've done as a district and what our plans are. Half hour, 45 minutes, and then we're back to having fun. So think about it. If I'm driving, Lauren's coming with me, I'm gonna be driving Barb Braun from the Kenton County Club, she's coming. So if anybody else would like to come see me, or just scan the QR code up there, it'll take you right to the registration.
Thank you, Greg. Speaking of Chattanooga, and you guys just came back from Pets this weekend or this past week?
That was last week, yep. We had a great time. We had the largest crowd. Our multi-district Pets is 6 districts. 2 in Kentucky, 2 in Tennessee, and 2 in Alabama. And so we got people from the Gulf to the Mason-Dixon line in our room. We had the biggest turnout we've ever had. So part of that's because we got more clubs than we've ever had. Well, we're reeling that back up, but out of our 38 clubs in this district, 30 of them are represented there. We had all of our assistant governors. We had 8 president nominees, and the training was excellent. We got to hear some wonderful speakers. Brian Hall, who was going to be our director, spoke at lunch on Friday, and that kind of got us started off. And he just gets your batteries charged up. You're ready to go out there and take on the world. He was very, very good. So we had a good time. Mark was nice and did not pick on me at all the whole time. I got up and talked to the big group, 400, I think, once, and the little group 3 or 4 times. And I had several people come up after it and tell me how surprised they were that I seemed to be comfortable standing in front of a crowd of 400. And I didn't tell them that that's because I've been fun slamming my whole life, but
We also got to hear the president-elect of Rotary International.
yeah, Mario.
And boy, that's an old time to be up there.
Bob's here, is that your glasses?
But there's a lot more gray nowadays than
That's Mark's realtor picture.
yeah.
Steve, he needs a new picture.
All right, so we got some volunteer opportunities coming up. So Boone County High School Senior Defenses of Learning, formerly known as Senior Exit Interviews.
Yeah.
The Serve and Socialize Fair at the library, that's a pretty good one, coming up 2 Saturdays from now. That's actually a lot of fun. I found a good bit of speakers actually attending that too. We got the Maker Expo at the Ignite Institute. And then in June, late June, we've got the Boone County Fair. So look at those, more details on those to come.
Sheets are on there too.
Birthdays, we got Carrie Connor, who is not here. And 36 years as a Rotarian, Leon Saint. All right, now for the main event and to introduce our speaker, Carol Lee.
Carol Lee, you picked a great week, though, nothing exactly. We already love her courage.
It's my pleasure and honor to introduce today's speaker. Not only is she a powerhouse in the financial world, but she's also a dear friend of mine, someone I've had the joy of traveling and boating with over the years. Melissa Kelly is a financial advisor and chief marketing officer at Odyssey Financial, and she brings with her an impressive years of experience in the financial industry. She has not only built a thriving business, but she's done it while navigating and dominating a field that's still largely male dominated. Her intelligence, insight, and unwavering professionalism have earned her a reputation as a leader, a trend watcher, and trusted advisor. Melissa is known for staying ahead of the curve, always up to date on the market shifts, financial strategies, and industry innovations. Whether working with individuals or businesses, her passion for helping others achieve financial clarity and security shines through. Please join me in welcoming Melissa Kelly.
Thanks, I hope I can live up to that. That's pretty high expectations there. We're gonna talk about market volatility, our favorite thing, right? What we're not gonna talk about are politics, okay? So, I'm gonna talk really generally and widely because, I'm guessing we have a broad range of investment experience here. And it's more about how do we manage. Sorry, clicker?
Yes. Right there.
It's
on the podium.
It's on.
Oh. There you go. Thank you. How to navigate volatile markets. Right. I will tell you, I don't have a crystal ball. So I'm not gonna solve all the world's problems today, but I am gonna try to reframe things. So if we can't change things, one, what we try to do is change mindset. Money is emotional for a lot of families that we serve, and we try to be the resource to help create that rationalism, and discuss risk and time horizons. What are we trying to accomplish? Are we on track? Are we aligned? And just go back to the foundation. So, we're going to talk through this. I tend to get really passionate about what I do and what I talk about. So I have some notes that kind of keep me from going down rabbit holes. So if you'll bear with me, and please feel free to ask questions. If you have deep, if you want to go deeper into any topics, you know, there are my business cards laying around. I'm happy to talk with you afterwards and we can set up a time to talk about what your concerns might be. Just let me know. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to define what market volatility is. We're going to talk about the economic factors that play into market volatility. What are the impacts that volatility have on your portfolios? And then how do we navigate through that? So if we talk about what market volatility is, it just basically is how much and how quickly prices move over a specific period of time. We can measure it on a daily basis. We've had some really strong big numbers movement over some days here recently, over the last month or so. We can measure it on a weekly basis, monthly, and even years. But one of the things that we try to play into is, you know, when we think about the things that tie into market volatility, we can also consider not just downward swings creating volatility, but big gains can create that volatility too. Difference is how we feel about it, right? We get really scared when the market goes down 750 points in a day, and then it keeps going down. And then all of a sudden we get two big up days. And so it's this roller coaster ride that a lot of people find themselves not being able to stomach. So that's what volatility is. The wilder the roller coaster is, the more volatile a market is considered. So how do we measure volatility if it's a real thing out there? It can't just be emotions, right? There is actually a tool that the Chicago Board of Options Exchange created back in the early 90s. It's called the VIX. Anybody here heard of the VIX? I know we have some industry experts here. VIX is basically a tool that measures investor sentiment, right? They call it the fear index. Now, this is measured again, and can't quite see that, but the red line and the yellow or the white line measure volatility, that sentiment of the investor. And then this is measured against the S&P 500. Okay. So The white line is the S&P. Anybody guess what this dip is right here? COVID. COVID. Look how little it looks when you look at it over time, right? Look at the red. That's investor sentiment.
Yeah.
Right? That's fear. That's how much fear. That's how fast it went up. And look at how fast it came down because we did a 180 with the market going down and we immediately came right back up. And everybody got confident again. Market started to open back up. The economy opened up. The globe started opening up. People started to travel again and demand things, services, products, cars, homes. What did we have? Super inflation, right? More demand. But we forgot we shut down the globe. We forgot we shut down manufacturing. And then we had inflation because of that, because it's supply and demand. When you shut down manufacturing, you don't have the supply, but you've got the demand for the supply. So that's what this is. It's a great tool to watch trends in the market. Now, where are we today? Yeah, looked it up. We're at 23.71. What does that mean? Let me give you some examples. COVID, that spike was 82.69. We're at 23 today. The low, 2017, was 9. The financial crisis, right here, actually, sign mine, was 80.86. So if it gives you some gauge of where we are with investor sentiment, we've been in, it's relatively low. We don't have a lot of investor sentiment about here are the markets. Now, why are the markets moving? Because the markets move based on uncertainty, right? We have a lot of uncertainty right now. But what do we know about market volatility? We know that market declines often are rare or temporary, right? They're short-lived. Now, if you look at this chart, this side is each year that represents a 0 to 40% positive rate of return. This goes back to the Great Depression, 1920, actually 28. It says 29, but there's 28 right there. We also know that we have 4 times as many double-digit up markets in a year than we do down markets. 4 times in this time frame. We've only had 3 times where the market had consecutive years of negative markets. You can name them. Back to the Great Depression. Great Depression.
Yeah.
Right? What else? World War II. Financial crisis of 08. 3 times since 1929. So that's what we know about volatility. We have to also understand the dynamics of the economic movements that can drive volatility. What do we have that drives that? Recessions. We've been hearing this word being thrown around here lately. We'll talk about it. Expansions, when we have great markets. And elections, which we just went through. So we have a lot going on. We also have a lot of known unknowns, which we're going to talk about. So recessions and expansions. Recession defined as 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP. So negative growth in the economy. Okay. Expansion, the exact opposite. 2 consecutive quarters of positive growth. Now they just came out with 4 quarters growth numbers at 2.4. So we're growing, we're expanding, but just very slowly. Now that has to do with COVID because we had a big run up and then we had inflation, which brought us down because rates, what happened with rates? They went up to get everybody to slow down. And so we just had this whiplash effect. So we were on a COVID high for a few years. And now we're settling back out where we're normalizing. We're actually seeing a lot of the stimulus that was pumped into the economy start to dwindle. That's part of what helped the demand of things excel and get fired up because they had money, consumers had money in their pockets. Okay. Now, recessions are also accompanied by a decrease in consumer demand, high unemployment. Do we see either one of those in the markets right now? We don't. We're still outspending, right? We're still demanding, we're traveling. We're, you know, if we learned anything from COVID, we're not gonna wait to live our lives.
Yeah.
So we don't see that high unemployment. Unemployment is 4%. We expect that to stay the same. The report's gonna come out later this week. We expect it to be unchanged. Bear markets. We're not in a bear market. We're experiencing volatility. Expansions, on the other hand, are accompanied by increased consumer confidence and demand. Again, we had that through COVID. And we still have that. It's just softening. We got so used to things being so heightened because of COVID that we got used to it. And so when we normalize, then it started, the wall of worry tends to tap into our emotions. And what else do we have? We have the media, we have social media, we have our TVs, right? We let all of that creep in and start to question our financial acumen. Governments also adopt a lot of fiscal and monetary policies to try to mitigate a lot of that risk with recessions. Yeah.
I'm sorry, what's your definition of a bear market?
So bear and bull markets, bear markets down 20+%. Okay. Bull markets are up 20%. That's off their highs and lows. Okay. 10% correction. That's correction territory. So if you're a long-term investor, 10-20% pullbacks might be a great buying opportunity. If you're in retirement and collecting your income off of your portfolio, and that roller coaster feels a little bit stronger than you'd like it, then maybe you're a little more risky than you should be. A lot of people don't understand and know how to define risk until the markets start pulling back, right? When you start paying attention to the dollars. I would have you also look at, we're getting ahead of some of this, but see, there's my rabbit holes. Thank you for that. We also have a tendency to look at the dollars instead of percentages. Right? Look at a percentage. Don't look at your portfolios. You're going to have volatility on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. If you have concerns, talk to your financial advisor. If you don't, call us and we can talk through that. That help answer your question?
Yes, thanks.
Yeah, sure. All right. So what else do we also have? The election effect. Now, this is a measure of volatility leading up to election day and what volatility does afterwards. You can go back to World War II and it's this way every time. Every time. People are all worried about the results of the election or what policy changes are going to happen. And then an election happens. And then why do they calm down? Anybody know? Because now we know. Now we know. It doesn't matter red or blue. Now we know. Now we know what direction to go into. Every administration has their pros and cons, right? Now we know what categories will benefit. We pivot. That's what we Americans do best. We pivot. Doesn't matter what happens. COVID, World War I, fiscal crises. We just pivot, we adapt. So that's us adapting. Everybody's a paper, right? What's going on now? So. That. I mentioned a little bit earlier, we have a lot of known unknowns. Right? We know we still have inflation not where the Fed wants it to be. They want to be at 2%, we're at about 3%. Is 3% going to be good enough? Right now, it isn't for them. They're on a mission. But they're also now taking a stance of wait and see. They're not going to be quick to cut rates. We just had a conversation about mortgages. It's like, why are all the other rates going down except for mortgages? Supply and demand. We also pay attention to global events. So we're still battling Russia and Ukraine, right? That's another unknown. We know about it, we just don't know what's going to happen. The Middle East, we know about it, but we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know where the Fed's going to go with rates. We know they're going to do something, we just don't know what it is. We know we have Trump in office and he's got a mission and he's making changes, but we don't know what his agenda is. We're learning, we're speculating, but we don't know what it is. Markets don't like the unknown. So that's when we have this volatility. Markets also have a tendency to price in their expectation of an event 6 to 9 months in advance of it ever even happening. So if you see something happen and the market doesn't move, and you wonder why, because it was already priced in. That's why. We have lots more information. You can go to our website. It's yourodyssey.com. On our insights page, we do keep that current with where we see things. We think we're going to be on a continued upward trend, but it's going to be much more muted than we've gotten accustomed to over the last couple of years. We think we're going to have a lot of volatility and choppiness between now and the end of the year. We think we'll land somewhere in the mid-single digits, high single digits if we're lucky. So it's going to be much more muted. Trying to stay sensitive to the time. You can give me like a little warning.
Yeah, usually Sean is in charge of that.
You're already. Okay.
Can't lose this job.
Thanks, Sean. All right. How does all of this impact your portfolio? So more to your question about bull and bear markets. We know that we talked earlier about how markets downward trends tend to be temporary. And here it is, just statistically speaking, bull markets, bear markets. Bear markets usually on average last about 9 months. On average, it's down negative 33%. Okay. Over here, bull markets last 3.8 years. Average gain is 112%. Now, what do you have to do to get those numbers on either side? Stay in the market. Stay in the market. If you pull out, you may not get that. But if you pull out of the market, you're not going to get that. The tricky part is, and that's the emotional piece. It's like, I'm gonna pull out of the market right now. I'm gonna put this on high ground and wait for things to get better. I'm like, well, when things get better, when do you get back in? Because you have missed all of the upside. This is a study that is done on a regular basis. This is, all of these charts, by the way, are aligned to the S&P 500. So this one goes back 20 years, 20 years. If you stay invested through all the ups and downs, and I should have put that probably a 20-year chart in to show you all those ups and downs. The VIX chart that we showed probably showed a little bit of that. You could see the little blip, which was COVID. The rest of the other blips are everything else. But if you just stayed invested through all of it, you would average north of 10% each year for 20 years. That's the average. But if you just miss 5 of those days in 20 years, 5 days, your performance drops almost 30%. So I would have you consider talking through emotions, because the roller coaster ride can be very unnerving for some. But understanding the underlying current and what's really going on with the markets and the economy, because the markets and the economy are two different things. Don't confuse the two. We don't want you to panic. And we want you to understand that there are 2 ways to invest wealth. One is strategically, what we call strategic. There's an art and a science to this. Strategic investing is the science. How much you put in stocks, how much you put in bonds, alternatives, cash, whatever it might be, structured notes. If you don't have structured notes, are you an accredited portfolio? Are you utilizing the tools that are appropriate for you? Do you have access to all the tools in the tool chest based on your investment experience? That's the science. The art is, what do we buy into each one of those categories during whatever's going on in the current environment? That's the tricky part. Making the changes. Don't become attached to one particular investment. You know, we have a lot of investors that are tied to P&G or GE because their mom and dad or their grandparents had it, or they work there and they just know it'll always come back, right? But you're relying on one company's performance or one category's performance to drive your net worth. Depending on where we are in the economy, what the fiscal or monetary policy is, how does it impact that category? So emotion, we try to keep the emotion out of it with the art and the science. The tactical piece is the art, knowing what to buy and when to shift, when to pivot. Right now, we would have you consider alternatives. If you don't know what alternatives are, those are investments that tend to beat their drum to a different tune. You don't follow the markets. You want to try to make money regardless of what's going on in the markets and the economy. So the art is the hard part. If you are not a long-term investor and you are focused on pulling money out of your portfolios, and this roller coaster ride tends to be too much, then now we have to look at risk. How much risk are you taking? I have some clients who love it when the markets are up. We all do, right? But as soon as that market goes down, it's like, we got to get out, we got to get out, we got to get out. It's like, okay, if we get out, when are we getting back in? And do we need to reassess risk? Because it's based on the roller coaster ride. Now, I would also make sure that however you're investing your portfolios, that we are sensitive at our team. And thank you for all the kind comments, but I can't do what I do without my team behind me. And we do work as a solid team. We try to create a portfolio that will have enough money for 3 to 8 years of income generating investments that will get you your paycheck without ever having to sell a stock in that time frame. So it doesn't matter what happens in the markets. So if the TV says, oh my gosh, you know, it's always Armageddon, right? The market's plummeting. Right? It's always the worst possible word you can hear. And if Scott Osborne, if you call into our office, and you want to talk about your portfolios, you're going to get Scott Osborne, who is our CFO and our wealth manager. And he's going to say, how did you hear about that? Well, the TV said this. He's like, so you want to sell your portfolio? I'm going to tell you to sell your TV. He does. He's awesome. So
It's good advice.
we want to make sure that you have that long-term sustainability as part of your portfolio. But we also want to give you the comfort and confidence to know that it doesn't matter what's going on in the markets. That's proper investing. So everybody has a different time horizon. So if roller coaster ride is too much and you're generating income off the portfolio, reassess risk. If the markets are very volatile and you're a long-term player, it'd be a great buying opportunity. We have a lot of people buying in on these dips. If you have 401ks that you're contributing to, you're doing that. That's the right thing to do. All right. Inflation, another one of the things that can impact your portfolio. Staying invested because of the long-term sustainability, right? We don't just try to get people to their goals. We try to get them through them. Like, we're not just trying to get you retirement. I'm trying to get you to the pearly gates and not have to worry about outliving your wealth. Here you can see $1 million, just from 1% inflation, the impact over 15 years, that $1 million is worth $861,000. If we jump up to 3%, it drops to 641. And that's where inflation is now. Everybody said, oh, I think I need $1 million to retire. Do you? All right, now, how do we navigate all of this? You all know it. You just need an accountability partner, right? We all know how to lose weight and be healthy. More of this, less of this. 5 things that you can do. Keep your emotions in check. Assess risk. Embrace diversification. We talked about that single category or single stock. Embrace diversification. Aligning to your financial strategy. Do you have a strategy? Do you know what you're trying to accomplish and if you're on track or not? I think that's what creates a lot of worry too, because people don't know where they're going. You go to a travel agent and the travel agent says, and you say, I want to go on a trip. I want to take a vacation. Great. Where do you want to go? I don't know. Okay. Do you want someplace warm, cold? What do you want to do? Do you want activity? Do you want R&R? Do you want children? Carolee and I have the pleasure of taking a trip to Punta Cana in 26 days and 2 hours now. Do you want your tails in the sand with a drink in your hand? Like, let's kind of narrow down what it is we're trying to accomplish. The money is not the goal. Okay? The money is the tool to fund all the things that you're trying to accomplish. And be disciplined. That's that accountability partner. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Keep your emotions in check. We're all human. We're all imperfectly human. Emotions get the best of us at any given time. And a lot can create that emotion, not even just the markets. It could be a family dynamic, caring for an aging parent, right? And now you're emotional about that and their wealth, and how are you going to pay for that? And now that it's tied to the markets, and the markets are, you see how that can just grab a hold of you. So talk through it with someone. Make sure that you're making rational, reasonable decisions, educated decisions on what's really going on. If you're in retirement, you know, it might be, okay, let's revisit spending. Where is money going? I tell clients this all the time. I don't care where your money goes. But we need to know that it goes. You're the one that needs to know where it goes. Because in times like this, you might need to watch the discretionary spending. Because it is the portfolio, and if the portfolio is being hit, it's not just the risk, it could be a combination of spending. We get comfortable with up markets and it's like, oh, we can spend more. Maybe, maybe not. All right. Risk tolerance. Risk tolerance is hard for a lot of people to wrap their heads around. I have better visuals. I'm huge on visuals because what I do is so conceptual, which is comprehensive financial planning. The wealth is secondary because it's the tool. We do it and we do it well. But we're really trying to focus on what it is you're trying to accomplish. You might have multiple goals. And they're all going to have a different risk tolerance and time horizon. So we're going to have to talk through and make sure we understand what the strategy for each one of those topics are. Make sense? Okay. Wow, I'm getting ahead of ourselves.
Hmm.
All right. Dreaded diversification. Yeah, anybody here been in traffic?
Yeah.
It's always your lane, it isn't moving. The other two lanes are passing you by. As soon as you change lanes, that one stops and the one you were in starts moving.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Diversification is that. Put your money in all the lanes. So you're positioned to benefit from any movement at any time. That's science. The art is how much in each lane and which lanes. Along with that diversification. Anybody know what this section is? Financial planning. It's the advice. How do I get there? Can I retire? Can I send my kids to school? Can I retire early? Can I start a business in retirement? How do I take care of mom and dad when I have young kids still at home? How do I plan for the future and live for today? You know how many times I've met with clients that are really well funded for retirement, but they're strapped and living paycheck to paycheck today. And what's the fun in that? What brings you joy? What brings you joy today? And how do we get you to do more of that, but stay on track for tomorrow? It's a balance. That's what financial planning is. That's where my passion lies. I'm going to tell you to think about the risk that you not only take with financial planning, could be like if you're working, you lose your job and you don't have disability coverage that covers your income. How does that impact your family if you're not able to work, especially if you're the sole breadwinner? Where does that leave your wife and your kids? And now you have mounting medical bills? That's a risk. What happens if you just go to the pearly gates early? And then where does that leave your family? What about the risk in retirement with long-term care? How do we address that? I'm going through that right now with my mom. Right? She needs some care. How do we pay for it? She can't pay for it. That generation didn't really plan. Part of it didn't plan for it very well. Some planned very well with it. So it's life. All the things that happen through life from cradle to grave. That's financial planning. All the questions, the advice. Again, the money is the tool to fund all that. So having a plan, aligning your thoughts, your emotions to your financial strategy. Do you have a strategy in place? Do you know what it is? Do you know if you're on track? There is a way to tell you if you're on track or not. I love to take you to the mountaintop by the hand and show you the valley and where the road leads. And when you have that visual, people are just like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better, right? Because now they know and they can see it and it can be illustrated. have an accountability partner. If you don't have one, if you don't have a financial advisor, happy to have that conversation. With us, you don't just get me, you get an entire team. We have 5 advisors who are passionate about financial planning. And then we have 4 advisors who are passionate about the wealth. Like, they geek out on it. I can do it, I can talk about it, but I'm not gonna come skipping down the hallway and say, look at the standard deviation. Oh my gosh, the alpha that we can get. Like, thank you. I'm glad we have you. Right. And then we align the money, the tool for the things that you're trying to accomplish. Thank you for your time. I hope this was helpful.
Well, let's take a couple questions.
Sure.
Questions? What do you think of crypto?
I don't.
Marcus?
Two of the biggest disruptors that we'll be handling currently, AI and tariffs. Give us your opinion, non-political.
It's tough to do. It's all political, right? AI is the wave of the future, right? We're seeing a lot of it. And I'm sure, Carolee said that she uses Chat GPT a lot. Like, what is that? I had to look up. I was like, oh, okay. It's gonna have an impact for sure. We are paying attention to it. I think some categories will benefit from it. I think other categories will be hurt from it. We already are seeing some companies adopt it to the extent that it's changing the workforce. Right? So we are seeing that dynamic. Tariffs. He's trying to clean house. He's trying to set an even playing field for who's charging who what, right? I believe he is trying to do what anybody should do think of it as your own financial house, right? Are you overspending? And look at the budget. I said earlier, where's your money going? How much are you spending at Starbucks? It's like when you actually do the math and it's like, oh my gosh, you spent $500 at Starbucks? Like, no, we're gonna cut that out. It's just being aware of where the money is going and why are we paying for that? And so I think that's what he's just trying to tell Americans, that we didn't know, because you don't know what's going on behind the curtain. You just know what's going on and the political front, what they want you to hear. So, I think, really, it's not what I think. The industry thinks and believes that it's a tool to have bargaining power for his real agenda. Now, some of it is to have that even fairness. But the other part of it is too, it's like, okay, well, let's negotiate. I want stronger borders. I'm willing to negotiate on some of this. Let's work together now.
Well, listen, thank you very much. Great talk.
That answers some of your questions.
Boy, that's a lot. I got more questions.
There you go. Yeah, you can that one.
Over there.
This was.
Oh, okay. All right. So next week, we've got BayWac coming. In the meantime, have lunch with a Rotarian. Oh, Laurie? Yep.
Thank you to everybody who brought the personal care items for hospice. We collected a lot. I already dropped off one load of it, and then we got some more over here today. So thank you to all of them and everybody who did that. And then this weekend is the Kiwanis Buddy Brunch and Egg Hunt. So if you've got any little ones that you want to bring to that, it's at New Day Ranch. There's some flyers on the tables. Pick one of those up. And also I have the raffle tickets for the 3-bedroom condo in Bonnet Creek, Orlando. And today will be the last day I'm selling it to this group anyway. So if you want them, come see me after the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Dark. And then all of you be envious of our sweet Rotary swag here. So Dave, I think is gonna open the window again in the fall, right? Is that okay? So pretty cool, you
Yeah,
know,
that's
look
great.
nice in it, hopefully. Michelle, you had something to,
Team 4, everybody keep in mind that our open house is on April the 28th, so think about who you can bring. Because we want a big turnout this year, we're looking for people that will join Rotary, who wants to be active. We have some new projects coming up that's really exciting, so we're looking for hands that can contribute to make it a success. So hope to see you all there with us.
and if you're on team 4, stick around for a minute because we're gonna have a brainstorming session afterwards. Okay. So anyway, until next week.
I'm sending everybody.
Thank you.